Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in again live today. It is Monday, February 12th. It is 12 noon, and you are currently watching the Skill Building Monday drawing group here live on the Reinventing the Tattoo Network. My name is Jason Leeser. I will be your host for today. And if this is working for you, please let us know in the comments and in the chat. And please tag a friend who loves tattoos. Maybe it's someone that wants to become a tattoo artist, or maybe it's someone looking to get a tattoo. Maybe it's a fine artist that, just has an interest in the art form. Tag everyone you know. We always appreciate it. And welcome to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are encouraged to join in these live streams, real world events, to share and inspire and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. With your help, we have evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on demand tattoo and art shows that have all been receiving rave reviews. You can find Reinventing the Tattoo in both of the app stores, the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, as well as our Reinventing the Tattoo YouTube channel, our Reinventing the Tattoo Roku channel, which has 12 to 15 different episodes going at any given time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as well as all of the major podcast directories such as Apple and Spotify. Or you can do what most people do and just pull up your web browser on whatever device you're using and do a quick search for Reinventing the Tattoo, and you'll find it all. Except for the book, which is still currently out of print unless you come across a copy on eBay, but that's a totally different story. But no matter where you were watching live or on demand, you can always get the latest and greatest, most up-to-date information, all available at www.reinventingthetattoo.com. You do not have to become a subscriber right away, although we do ask that you do subscribe to our YouTube channel and podcast and all that stuff, which is free to do. But you do not have to subscribe to Reinventing the Tattoo right away in order to access some great content on the website, such as a sample webinar from the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon, or you can get some free advice from Guy Aitchison about your unique goals, which is always helpful to get an outside perspective. Or you can take a comprehensive tattoo history course from Jay Brown. All of those available for free at reinventingthetattoo.com. While there, you can also find access to a full event schedule with full weekly and special event live stream details, as well as access to our Reinventing 24/7 channel, which is a lot like our Roku channel. It's got 13 different episodes playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as well as a whole host of professional development courses from over 20 world-class tattoo artists, such as BJ Betts, who has a 3-hour lettering seminar. Or maybe you want to tattoo skulls like Bob Tyrell. Well, guess what? He's got a whole skull seminar on there, and it's fantastic. Maybe you want to tattoo half sleeves like Andre Malcolm. Well, take a look. Andre Malcolm's got an entire koi fish half sleeve all available for purchase at reinventingthetattoo.com. Once again, if this is working for you, please let us know in the comments and in the chat, and please tag a friend who loves tattoos. We have a number of weekly staple shows we always encourage people to tune into, starting off on Mondays at 9 a.m. with Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom, where we get to go through and discuss basic drawing techniques and strategies, as well as other fine art principles that help us get back to our roots of being a fine artist in the tattoo world. Following Drawing for Tattooers at 9 a.m. with James Wisdom at 12 p.m., 12 noon, we have the Skill Building Monday Drawing Group with me, Jason Leeser, where we get to go through and really work on developing some of our skills. Whether it's working on some Procreate tips and tricks, or maybe it's working on quick little value studies or outline principles or whatever. We discuss a whole bunch of different topics here on Skill Building Mondays, so we always ask that you please tune in. Following today's show at 12 noon, at 9 p.m., we have a subscribers exclusive drawing group with Sandy McAndrew from the Reinventing the Tattoo Network, where we get to go through and cover a chapter in the Reinventing the Tattoo canon every week. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, Even though these 9 p.m. subscriber exclusive drawing groups are only available for people that have a to evolution or reinventing the tattoo canon subscription, I can tell you from firsthand experience that over the past few years that I've been doing these Monday evening drawing groups, you have seen a marked difference in the type of work that I've been creating for the better. In my opinion, these Monday evening drawing groups alone are well worth any of the cost that you might incur. It really helps you go through and work on some of your skills, really helps you push the bounds of what it is that you're doing, and can really help you take your art to a whole new level. Following Monday's live sessions on Tuesdays at 11 a.m., we have the Tattoo Weekly with Gabe Ripley, Lauren Gregory, and Jake Meeks. And that is where we get to go through and discuss any and all current events going on in the tattoo industry. Maybe it's new legislation being passed, or maybe it's new rules and restrictions or requirements. All of that and more is discussed during the Tattoo Weekly, and that's Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Following the Tattoo Weekly on Tuesdays, and on Wednesdays at 12 noon, we have the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley, where we get to go through and do a deeper dive into the business side of tattooing. Maybe it's marketing or advertising or client retention, streamlining the process of getting your clients booked. Maybe it's working on travel visas. All of that and a lot more is all available during the the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley on Wednesdays at noon. Capping off our week on Thursdays at 6 p.m., we have the Tattoo Collecting 101 podcast with Fawn Baker, where we get to go through and hear about different stories and discuss different topics dealing with collecting tattoos from other artists. Always an entertaining time on that show. Highly recommend you check it out. That's Thursdays at 6 p.m., the Tattoo Collecting 101 podcast. We do have a special event coming up in the very near future. Reinventing the Tattoo will be live from Hell City in Columbus, Ohio, May 17th through 19th. Come by, stop by, say hi. Come join a podcast. Come join a live stream. Come get tattooed. There's going to be absolutely incredible artists there, including myself. And we will all be doing tattoos live Friday through Sunday, May 17th through 19th in Columbus, Ohio. That is the Hell City Tattoo Convention. You have to check it out. It is going to be absolutely incredible. Paul Booth will be there. We'll be doing some live drawing, some live painting. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Highly recommend you take a look. Would like to go through and take a second to thank some of our sponsors and some of the people that make these shows happen. Starting off with worldtattooevents.com, the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. They're constantly keeping everything updated. As we know, living in a post-pandemic world, there are still certain tattoo events and conventions that are getting rescheduled like crazy. So if you want to stay up to date on the most relevant, most current tattoo convention information coming to a city or town near you, or maybe it's when you plan on visiting, that's how I like to plan out all of my vacations, take a look at worldtattooevents.com. Would also like to thank tattoonow.com. Technology, the leading edge in professional development, management, and digital tools for tattooers of all levels. They're constantly keeping everything upgraded and competitive with any and all types of CRM, mailing list, and scheduling software out there. So if you're really looking to go through and help attract and retain more clients to help them get the types of tattoos that you really want to do, take a look at tattoonow.com. They will help you streamline your service and help you get more butts in those seats. Would also like to say a very special thank you and heartfelt shout out to Guy Aitchison at guyaitchison.com. He is the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo. You can go to guyaitchison.com where you can pick up a copy of his Biomech Encyclopedia, some of his custom tutorial DVDs. I believe he also still has one or two custom coil machines for sale, as well as countless fine art prints and occasionally the original oil painting, all for sale at guyaitchison.com. Would also like to say a very special thank you and shout out to one of our affiliates, The Apprenticeship Diaries with Amy Nichols. If you are looking for information on how to become a tattoo apprentice or information about what a good tattoo apprenticeship is like, as well as maybe you get entertained by hearing some horror stories about what, old tattoo apprenticeships are like. Take a look at the Apprenticeship Diaries with Amy Nichols. You will not be disappointed no matter what you are looking for. Would like to go through and say, please post a positive review on the channel. Please help us get the word out. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down at the bottom of the page. That way you can stay up to date for all future shows coming at you here on whatever platform you are listening or watching, if you are watching live. If you would like to host a Reinventing the Tattoo event, become a sponsor of our community, or if you are looking for a fine art or a tattoo critique, you can always email management at reinventingthetattoo.com. We will get back to you as soon as we can. And that kind of wraps up my intro for today. Yay. I made good time on that. Very happy with that. Wonderful, wonderful. And I did want to go through and continue on some of our discussion about simplicity, simplifying, right? Simplify your shapes, simplify your lines, simplify your values and your tones. It's been said that sometimes simplicity is the most elevated form of complexity, right? We being artists have a very big tendency to overcomplicate things. We like details everywhere. Yes, no. We like to overcomplicate things. We do. Sometimes it's very difficult for us as tattoo artists to take a step back and try to just really capture the essence of what it is we're creating using the most simple means and the most simple processes and methods available. It can be really difficult. I know a lot of artists firsthand that actually enjoy doing a lot of very, very heavily detailed work. And they're fantastic at it. They really are. I myself love doing a lot of very tiny little subtle details and things. I was challenged by a friend of mine not too long ago to go through and take a step in a different direction, right? They said, "Yeah, that's cool that you can do all that super crazy detailed stuff." They said, "But can you draw just an old school fish? Can you simplify something down so it's got more traditional aspect to it? Can you boil down and condense that concept to get it into the most simplified form possible?" And it has been something that I have been struggling with ever since. Because, much like a lot of other artists out there, I like very detailed things. I find that simplifying things down into some of their more base forms can be extremely difficult without going overboard, right? And I use traditional style tattoos as, one of many examples. There are certain people out there, you can look at a lot of different fine artists that have tried to simplify. They've tried to boil things down. They've tried to get back to the essence of what it is that they are doing. And it is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy thing to achieve, is to be able to boil things down to know exactly what details to put where in order to convey everything that you need to convey to get whatever it is that you are drawing or painting or tattooing to come across as clear enough and easy enough to perceive without adding too much, right? And sometimes I find that I myself get lost in a lot of these details. I like to go through, as I mentioned before, I like to detail things. I like to add subtleties here and there. Sometimes when things get boiled down, there's no room for that. But what you're doing instead is creating the essence of whatever it is, that primal idea of what is there and what is the underlying concept. That is what you are getting back to. And it's challenging, very challenging. A couple of weeks ago, I asked people that might tune in and watch this show, I issued a challenge. I said, try to break down whatever your favorite subject matter is into its most basic elemental shapes: circles, ovals, triangles, squares, rectangles, maybe the occasional weird polygon in there. But try to break it down, try to condense it, and then rebuild from that. Maybe you like drawing dragons. Great. Break down a dragon that you've drawn, break it down into its basic elements, its basic shapes, and then expand off of that, right? I myself have been doing this exercise for quite a while. It's not very easy to do because it forces you to examine a lot of the things that you're drawing, right? By deconstructing and then reconstructing things, we can learn a lot about, say, perspective or alignment or proportion, right? A lot of that can very easily be picked up on. Maybe you're drawing a snake or a dragon, and you notice that, certain things aren't exactly where they should be. They shouldn't be, maybe they're not exactly parallel. Maybe you've got a weird perspective thing going on, and it's like, oh, well, maybe if I just reposition this line a little bit more like this, maybe it'll be a bit more, maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. And it'll click, and you're like, oh, yeah, I got that. Yeah, that made all the difference in the world. Now this looks a lot better. We can often come to those conclusions by deconstructing and then reconstructing and doing a lot of self-critique and examination through that. Today's focus and this show is going to be focused more on simplifying line, right? Working with line, outlines, conceptual lines, accent lines, things like that. And I'm going to be diving into that in just a minute. I did want to put on some music, but I don't know. This may sound terrible or it may sound cool. I'm not sure. But we're going to find out. We'll find out together. Let's go with this. This is all AI generated, by the way, so there's no copyright infringement going on or anything like that. We'll just keep that kind of low in the background. If anyone has any comments, please feel free to drop them at any given time. I am paying attention to all of the comments and chats coming across. I'm going to go through and get some stuff together to get started working on simplifying some line. Hopefully I'm coming through all right and I'm coming through clear today. I'm not sure. I might be having a little bit of Wi-Fi issue, but if I am, I apologize sincerely for that. Sometimes I just can't help these things. I try to do everything I can to make sure everything goes off without a hitch, but sometimes technology is technology, and we all know how technology can get. It can be a temperamental thing for sure. And cool, I'll just put that there. Okay, that's not in the way. Wonderful. And let me adjust this a little bit. Actually, you know what? There we go. That's going to be better. Okay, so this is a dragon that I've been kind of playing around with and working on for a little while. A couple of different layers that I condensed down into one basic layer, and then just kind of turn the opacity down on that. Let's turn the background down on that so you guys can see it a little better. Um, cool. So like I said, I'm going to be focusing on line today and trying to simplify a lot of lines to really make things kind of accented to be exactly how I need them to be. To really kind of maximize impact and really try to help figure out what elements do I need and where. Right? I know I'm going to need this. And then down here, this is going to be an important spot. That lowest part right over the eye. And then this. Got to make sure we do the border of the eye. Now, I have a very big tendency to do too many lines whenever I'm drawing something, which is why I'm trying to simplify. Right? I'm trying to go through, and I know this isn't going to be perfect. This is just kind of like a draft layer of my line layer, which is why I'm not really super concerned about any things like loops or anything, perfect curves or straight lines or anything like that. Not super concerned about that right now. Just kind of getting an idea for what are going to be the most lines that I need. So I know I need these guys. I'm going to leave out a lot of these tiny little secondary lines. Things like, let me unlock. Certain lines I have in here more as accent lines and shadow lines, like here, like right next to the eye of the dragon. Those won't be included. That won't be included as an actual line. All of this stuff in here won't be included. All of these guys up here won't be included because I'm really just trying to focus on simplifying my line work and not overcomplicating the line that I put in. And that, in my opinion, is one of the things that kind of gives dragons a lot of their elegance. And it's something I've been coached on by a couple of different people for quite some time. Is a lot of the dragons that I draw end up being too complex. They're not simple enough. They might be good drawings, but those drawings might not necessarily equate to good tattoos later on. Simply because if you put too many lines in, those lines are done too small, too close together. They will blur over time. I've seen it happen, and it is not a good thing. Like I said, right now, I'm just trying to go through and get the absolutely most critical lines that I need. And this may actually include leaving out certain parts of what I've drawn. And there is a reason behind that, and I'll touch on that a little more in just a minute. There are certain things when dealing with perspective that you're not going to have a hard line on because you want them to be much more soft in the background. by not outlining it, you immediately soften it up if all you do is just shade it in. It's really kind of like a little trick. If you're laying out a much larger piece, maybe you'll use a thin gray line just to kind of mark the area if you're just creating that rough map during the first pass. Um, but not everything, despite what anyone may say, and it was something that people tried to drill into my head a lot when I was coming up, but not everything that you tattoo needs a solid black line around it. Um, it just doesn't need it sometimes, especially if you're trying to create an illusion of depth and distance and effect. You just don't do a hard line. It's that easy. Maybe a light gray, super light gray line, or like a very, very thin light gray line if you really want it to disappear. But not everything needs a very big, thick, heavy, or even thin black line. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'm trying to work on simplifying my lines so that I can remind myself that, hey, not everything needs a super big line on it. In fact, a lot of times, varied line weight can lead to a lot of depth of field and distance effects, which I've always been super, super fond of. I'm going to switch over to, yeah, that'll work. Still giving it that like little bit of a sketchy look. But I'm finding this to be a lot easier to just kind of outline with. If you're working in Procreate, don't be afraid to try different things and to adjust brush settings. Sometimes a brush might be almost perfect, and then you make a tiny little tweak, and then it's like, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. All of that and more is covered in a Procreate seminar that I will be teaching again this year at Paradise Gathering in October. So I'm very much looking forward to that. If anyone out there would like to understand the basics of Procreate and designing on an iPad or anything else like that, by all means, take a look at the Paradise Tattoo Gathering happening in Jiminy Peak, Massachusetts this year. It is going to be an epic time. I will be there. A whole bunch of other really awesome artists are going to be there. And I will be teaching seminars on Procreate and making prints and all types of fun stuff. So you can see I'm kind of skipping over a lot of these tiny little accent lines that I have drawn in here. Everything from like the ridge of the chin, like all of these tiny little depth of detail marks. Maybe I will go through and just do like a little circle there. Just kind of do a rough outline on the tongue there. The ear needs a couple of outlines. That I'm not going to bother to put in. Simple, simple, simple. I will probably outline the rest of this. So you can kind of see how just by getting rid of some of those tiny little accent lines, this alone could hold up as a dragon. Um, no, I don't have like tiny little gums in there. I don't really have any underbelly scales, any accent lines or anything like that. But if I were to tattoo this dragon head, it would come out totally fine, and with a little bit of light shading, could really stand out and really be nice and bold and smooth, and would really work well for a more simplified, less busy, less complex outline. Say I needed to end up doing the head smaller, this is exactly what I would be doing if I needed to do the head a bit on the smaller side. Sometimes you might get something drawn out, and it might look great, and then you print it out and you're like, ooh, yeah, no, that's not going to look good over time. That's going to be way too complicated. So sometimes you have to go back through and simplify. Now, things like this back horn, I am going to do a really rough outline on. But the hand behind it, I'm actually not going to outline. And the reason behind that is, like I mentioned a little bit ago, sometimes you don't need a hard line on things, because if I were to go through and give you an idea of what this is going to look like once it's kind of shaded in, what I will probably end up doing is just going through and doing not necessarily a silhouette. There would definitely be parts that are darker and parts that are lighter, but a lot of this would just end up getting like a flat gray shade. Maybe I'd have like a couple of little subtle, like darker gray or lighter gray values, but that's about it. But all of this would end up just kind of getting grayed out. What that's going to do is that's going to force it into the background. It's going to force it to be less emphasized and way more obscure. And by doing that, that is going to create a sense of depth of field. Maybe I'll keep a little bit more shadow on the underside. I still haven't figured out my light source yet, but if I was going to do this, I would pretty much just layer in a lot of like mid-tone gray and light gray. I'm just kind of like block this out. I would leave certain tiny little things, like maybe like a little gap here, just to show separation between the thumb and the hand. But then everything on the inside here, that would get grayed out as well. And by getting rid of all of the detail in this hand, it kind of allows your main focus to go on the head, especially if I do a lot of like kind of subtle little shadow tricks with the head itself. Not really worrying about, accuracy or anything like that right now, but so if I go through and I do a lot of very detailed values, a lot of very detailed shadows and shading on the head, then anything behind that, I really want to just kind of be a lot more vague. And that's going to push this head forward a bit more in space and allow us to create a much bigger sense of depth and a much bigger distance between the head and the hand, right? It pushes the hand way back because it doesn't have any of those subtleties, any of those details. So immediately your eye is going to be going straight towards the head, where I really want to concentrate all of my detail. but I'm simplifying things. This is just with one standard line weight. I'm not playing around with multiple line weights right now. I'm not really getting into calligraphizing anything or stylizing any kind of line. I'm literally just doing pretty much a standard, simple line weight, only where I absolutely need it. And this design could very easily be tattooed, even at a much smaller size. Say I wanted the entire head to only be like 3 inches long on a maybe four, judging from here to here, not including the horns, that would add like an extra 2-3 inches. But say I only wanted this head to be tattooed at like 4 inches, right? Well, not only could I tattoo this at 4 inches, but I know for a fact if I did just these outlines, everything would hold up and everything would look fantastic over time. If I really got into like some of the tiny, tiny, tiny little details and stuff, that's when you start to get worried about, longevity in it and how's that going to look. And, people start to kind of get weirded out by that stuff. And then they see it over time and they're like, oh, hey, can I get it touched up? And it's like, oh, yeah. But simplify your process, simplify your lines, simplify your shapes and your values. Instead of doing a whole bunch of details on this hand, I'm simplifying. I'm going through and I'm saying, no, since this hand is further back, it's going to have 1 or 2 tones at the most. That is going to set that apart and make this one big, like, simplified shape. If I decide I want to do a detailed hand like this, in the future, I can very easily do that. Maybe I could even use the same hand and, position it differently or give it a different perspective. Maybe have this finger up here a bit more. But, for now and for this art project, I'm fine with that just being kind of grayed out and being pushed into the background. I could go through if I really wanted to and try to find a way to simplify this horn as well, because that would also make it vastly more simplified. But once again, I don't want to have 2 super simple areas, even if they are different tones. I wouldn't want to do that because, number one, it's going to close the distance between these 2 pieces. And by close the distance, what I mean is it's going to not push that hand back quite as far as I want that hand to be. I really want that hand to be seen as being way behind the head of this dragon. Literally on the opposite side of the body, way towards the background. Very atmospheric, very rough, very hazy. Whereas this horn, yes, it is on the back side of the head, but if I really want the emphasis to be on the head, then that needs to be on the same rough plane as the rest of the dragon's head. I can't create too much distance on that. What I could do if I was really feeling saucy, I don't know why I've been saying feeling saucy lately. I'm weird. But I could start out with like a vague tip where it would really create more distance and then get more detailed as I get closer to the actual head of the dragon. So as I got closer, I would see a bit more information, start to get a few more of those details there, because what that will do is push the tip of this horn further back in space. So we can go from like detailed to no detail in this one little section. And that will help that be read a little bit easier as it pushes back in space. It's also going to help keep this finger in perspective as far as distance to the head. So just little tricks like that, just simplifying things, even as far as, okay, maybe I'm just not going to do any details in this part and I'm just going to leave it a very basic, simple shape. Cool. If you draw a dragon claw right, whether it's shade like a flat shade of gray or you detail the absolute crap out of it, you should still be able to tell that it is a dragon claw, right? If things get drawn correctly, right, with perspective and shapes and forms, it doesn't matter if you keep them as like a flat shape with a flat tone of value and zero detail, you should still be able to read it as what it is, right? That's just something that I picked up years ago in art school, and it's kind of stuck with me ever since. Utilizing your negative space. By negative space, I mean all the area that's not sketched in. That's on the outside of your subject matter. So even if I were to go through, flatten all of this out and just use like a very, very flat tone. Down here, I would have negative space. Even if I were to go through and do this, there might be certain parts that might get a little confusing. And I might, get lost, but you should still be able to tell that this is a dragon head, regardless. And this is a very quick and easy way to figure that out. Fill everything in with black. Take a look at the silhouette that's created. Maybe you need some more negative space in there. Maybe you need, to reevaluate certain things. So right now I can tell you that this area here by the eyes, that's getting lost to me. So maybe I will go back through and revisit that. Create a silhouette of it. If it can hold up on its own as a silhouette, then you won't ever have an issue. And I'm pretty sure this would if I continued to fill all of this in. I'm not going to put you guys through that. But yeah, simplify your shapes, simplify your shadows, and simplify your lines. Get it so simple and so easy to read that no one will ever have an issue mistaking it for what it is. And that's how you can really tell whether or not something is going to hold up really, really well. That's if you're working in a representational aspect and you're trying to get, a more representational kind of look. If you are going for more of an abstraction kind of a look, or if you are going for more of, any other kind of look, maybe you want to do like hyperrealism. Hyperrealism's perfect. Look at backgrounds that Steve Butcher does in a lot of his tattoos. Very, very vague. All it is like colorful shapes. Look at, a lot of the background stuff that Philip Liu does. Very, very out of focus, very vague, very simplified shapes. And that stuff is bold. It will hold. It will look great, 100 years from now. If anyone has any questions, by all means, please feel free to drop a message or make a comment in the chat. I am paying attention to everything, so feel free to. Kind of looking at this and thinking to myself, okay, what do I need to do next? All right. Now, my goal and what I'm really kind of shooting for is to go through and kind of do a very, very dark gradient. I'll switch over to an airbrush for this one. I plan on doing a very kind of simple gradient down at the bottom, kind of fading my way up in the background to create that nice kind of flow to it. As it gets higher, it is going to get lighter. You know, maybe I won't do quite as much of that. Maybe. Yeah, maybe we'll just keep that kind of vague. You know, but then this way I don't have to actually like show how it fades out or where it's going to go for the rest of the body. It's just going to kind of get obscured. And that's going to give me a nice kind of trail out, so that I'm not really going to be super concerned with that moving forward. Gives it a way to kind of go through and blend things in to make things seem like they're really moving backwards and forwards. You know, if you can just kind of have it fade out, do it, it's going to look great. Especially with things like this, like mythical creatures and stuff like that, because you can always do like a little bit of a cloud and then have them reappear somewhere else. You know, it's one of the old tricks to doing stuff like this is go through, create like a little cloud barrier that they're moving behind or coming out from, and then boom, it's right there, and then you can just continue that somewhere else and draw that in, and now you can get, you know, maybe this part would be on top of someone's back, you know, and then we would have the rest of the body continuing down the leg, right? Easy way to go through and break things up, make things look good. You know, if I really wanted to try to, you know, stretch the bounds of what I'm doing, I could even do like a little cutoff here, or maybe even here, and just kind of have it popping out from behind clouds. You know, that could look cool. In fact, maybe I will do something like that because I wasn't happy with the way the lower body was looking. You know, so all of this down here would be obscured by, say, clouds or cloud cover or whatever. And this guy would just kind of be popping up from behind a cloud. You know, maybe he's chasing something like a little bird in the distance, or, you know, maybe there's something else going on, or he's flying to something or from somewhere, and he had to go behind this cloud to get there. You know, it's just something that I look at and I see, and it could really work well in this kind of scenario. So, my 2 cents. Not that anyone needed it or asked for it, but it's there. Needless to say, I hope everyone has been doing well. As always, if anyone ever has any questions or ideas or topics for shows coming up, by all means, shoot me a, let's see here. Yeah, so I can do, there we go. You can feel free to shoot me a DM. Right up at the top of the screen is my Instagram. By all means, please feel free, go through, send me a message. on my Instagram. You can also find a link to my email, as well as any number of other ways to contact me. So please feel free to do so. If you have a question about something that I talk about in these shows, please shoot me a message, shoot me an email, let me know, and I will be happy to answer whatever questions you might have. Yeah, maybe I'll throw like some cloudy kind of stuff back here too. Bring that up a little bit more. Now, one thing I would say is that sometimes it is nice to have a little bit of the silhouette, very vague, simplified silhouette that's just barely visible behind some of this obscurity, especially if we're doing things like clouds, and keeping it kind of atmospheric. Can be nice to see just a little hint of it. Once again, I wouldn't give it any kind of like a hard line because it is disappearing behind cloud shapes. Just as like one of many different directions you could take something like this. And then that would kind of give both hands and the body and the head a bit more emphasis, especially from a compositional perspective. By what I mean is, let's do sketching. So compositionally, we've got one hand coming down this way. We've got the other one coming down this way. We've got the head and horns coming out in this direction, right? Then we've got the body taking our eye back. Now we've got cloud coverage cutting down this way. So it's creating a visual rhythm of down, over, down, over. Which is great because ideally we do want to create that kind of visual rhythm. So that's down, over, down, over, right? So there's our visual rhythm. We also have this hand leading our eye back up in this direction. We've got all of these claws and fingernails pointing back down towards our main subject matter, right? These horns are going to lead our eyes to exactly where we want it to look. Everything else is kind of, all of these are moving in that direction to bring our focus in. And one thing that a lot of people often look over is anytime that you have anything that's kind of pointy or concave or pointy or extruded or anything like that, the human eye naturally wants to follow it to see where it starts. That is a naturally built-in thing that the human mind does, because it goes back to the hunter-gatherer days, and we want to find the origins and the sources of these things. So our eye is constantly going to be following that. So anytime that you have something that starts small and then goes big, our eye wants to follow that, and it wants to start and figure out where the base is on that, which is why you'll see all of these hairs are not just like single strands. They might start that way when I'm first sketching, but that's only just to give me an idea of flow. But that is exactly why they all start out thinner and then get thicker towards their base. Same thing down here. We bring these curves exactly in because the human eye is naturally going to want to follow from smallest to biggest point to see where the origin is. Same thing here. We want to bring the eye in here, here. We want to bring the eye into exactly where we want it to look. And by creating these tapered beard hairs, which aren't really hairs, but it's the basic concept of it. It brings all of our attention and all of our idea and everything we look at right back in to exactly where we want people to look the most. And these are just subtle things that I try to incorporate into every, drawing or tattoo that, I get the opportunity to do, especially if I have a lot of creative freedom with how I get to go through and draw things. I always try to direct the eye to one specific spot so that way people will look only at what I want them to look at, and everything else is just kind of there as window dressing. So simplify your lines. It's going to help you simplify your shapes. It's going to help you simplify everything, and a simple life is a peaceful life. So until next week, hope everyone keeps their hands busy. Hope you guys are all doing well. And keep things sketchy, keep your hand moving, and I will catch you guys back here. I actually think I'm going to be off next week. I might be. So if not, well, let me check the calendar now. So let's see. Yes, so I will actually be taking Monday the 19th off, and I will see everyone again Monday the 26th at 12 noon. I hope you guys are doing well. Keep things sketchy, keep your hands moving, and I will see everyone again on Monday the 26th. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in today. As always, shoot me a DM here at Philly Inc., or you can always email me, Jason at reinventingthetattoo.com. Thanks very much, everyone. Hope you guys have a great day and a great week, and I will catch everyone again on the 26th. Take care. Cheers.